A news article came out saying that Andor is just not that popular of a show. And that is super frustrating for a guy like me because this is exactly the kind of show that I've been waiting for. Andor's great so far. But look, I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to talk about the new episode called Announcement. But I do want to say, as always, that even though this isn't going to be like a play-by-play sort of thing, I'm basically just going to be talking about the things that stuck out to me in the episode. There will be spoilers. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, and you do, then you may not want to watch this. I mean, that's just how it works. But let's just get on with it. As I've mentioned before, Tony Gilroy and his team are telling the story of Andor in this season and probably next season in 4 3-episode arcs. So 12 episodes total. Every 3 episodes is going to be like a story arc, right? We just came off of one, and if you saw last week's episode, it wrapped up that arc, and yeah, it was something. It was pretty awesome. So this week's episode is the beginning of a new arc, and we're basically dealing with what happened last week, and it's being felt all over the galaxy. First, I want to point out that with the Empire, they're not happy with how last week's episode went down, so they are cracking down like across the galaxy. But we get to see our first live action words being spoken by Wolf Yularen. If you don't know who Yularen is, he was in A New Hope in this scene. He's kind of in the background in this scene in A New Hope with Admiral Mahdi. And then, of course, if you saw the Clone Wars, he is basically the general of the Star Destroyer that basically shuffles Anakin and Obi-Wan around. So we've seen Yularen in the past, just not like this, and it was pretty cool to see. And it's time for the Empire to really crack down. So the character of Medra, who's I guess the main protagonist of the Empire side of things of the story, if that makes sense, we're seeing her basically break security rules to get more information. She's trying to put together all of these things going missing and stuff like that, trying to put together this story of how the rebellion is becoming stronger. And when it's brought up in this security meeting, Major Partagaz actually praises her instead of condemns her. So it's an interesting story, and even though, this is the Empire we're dealing with, she is someone that I'm kind of rooting for, if that makes any sense. It's interesting how they're playing all of these different stories, and how she is basically our hero on this side of the story. We get a couple of scenes with Mon Mothma, and we learn a lot of things in this episode about her. There's a scene at the beginning between Luthen and Mon Mothma inside of his shop, and trying to keep up appearances, because apparently the driver is paid by the Emperor to tail her and to watch her and to report on her doings. And I'm just gonna say this. I think that this scene is probably the best acted scene in the Disney era. It's the best act. I mean, seriously. Genevieve O'Reilly continues to impress. Stellan Skarsgård's always good, but Genevieve O'Reilly, it's like, wow, I've said it before. They've been wasting her talent. She is absolutely perfect as Mon Mothma, and the way that she talks, the way that they're saying some stuff that is disturbing to one another, and yet they keep smiling, because they've got to keep up these appearances. I love this scene so much, and as I said, I think it may be the best acted scene I've ever seen in Star Wars. Later on, we see a party going on, and she is speaking to a childhood friend named Tay, and talking about raising money. And of course, Tay is asking why. She is saying, it's better if you don't know. And then we also learn that Mon Mothma doesn't even trust her own husband. And the way that she's just got to be this ball of anxiety. And it's really interesting to watch, because it's just a side of Star Wars we've never been able to see. And of course, a side of Mon Mothma that we've never seen. It's fantastic stuff. And again, Genevieve O'Reilly is so good in this that it's like, man, why haven't we been doing more with her? there's a short scene between Vel and Clea on Coruscant. Clea is Luthen Rael's assistant, right? She's basically telling her, yeah, Andor is a liability at this point, and he needs to be taken care of. Like seriously, like eliminate him. This really brings to light where Luthen Rael stands in all this. I mean, in all of Star Wars, we've known, as far as the rebellion goes, we've met Saw Gerrera, and he's definitely the extreme side of the rebellion. I mean, he's an extremist in every sense of the word. Luthen Rael is somewhere in between, what we know is these, hey, let's go defeat the Empire, and these guys that are willing to do terroristic things to get their way. You know what I mean? Luthen Rael is definitely one of these people that is he doesn't care who's in the way, and he doesn't care how many other people get hurt, as long as the wave of rebellion continues to surge. He's kind of okay with it. There's a cool flashback or I guess a series of flashbacks where Cassian is remembering things about the occupation of Ferrix, and we get a couple of cool scenes. We don't get the whole scene. I'm guessing that we're gonna get see more of this story in the past. We're gonna see more in the future about it, but yeah, it's really interesting stuff, and it's kind of laying the groundwork for what I assume will be. I mean, I'm guessing we'll see this is Andor's turn from I don't want anything to do with this, I just want to be able to live my life in peace, to okay, I'm fighting for this. This is who I am, and this is where we're going. But we see Andor returning to Ferrix, and he's talking to Marva about going with him and going into hiding. And she basically says no. This is another one of those scenes that I feel like it's set up for something that's maybe a catalyst that's going to get Andor going. It's really, really interesting stuff. Very, very well done character drama stuff. And man, I'm just here for that. Then we get to see Andor, I'm assuming a short time later, on this planet called Niamos, which basically looks like Miami. And we get to see, beaches and things like that. And he's apparently living his life. He's got there's a scene where he's got a woman in bed and he's taking a shower. And it's like, okay, this is really different for Star Wars. I mean, like very different. But then he gets questioned. Later on, he gets questioned by a shore trooper, and things start to happen. An Imperial security droid shows up, like K2SO, but it's not K. So it's some bad news. And then later on, we see, very, very quick succession, we see that he's sentenced to 6 years in prison. So I'm assuming that the rest of this arc is going to be him in prison and what's going to go down there. So apparently Andor is just not doing as well as other Star Wars properties when it comes to viewership, when it comes to online discussions and things like that on Twitter or whatnot. That's really frustrating. It's frustrating. Like I said before, this is a show that I think that does storytelling. The storytelling is coming first. And that is something that we haven't had in the Disney era, and honestly haven't had very well in Star Wars for a long time. And it's just really frustrating that the best thing that Disney's put out, at least in my opinion now, is not doing well. So this is something that I'm going to be talking about, with everybody I can. That Andor is the best Star Wars that we've had in the Disney era, and some of the most interesting Star Wars that we've ever had. And people need to be watching it, because this is how we get more of this, is by us watching it and enjoying it. And hopefully this is the kind of show that actually has legs, that when the season is over, people can binge it and they end up falling in love with it, just like they had with Rogue One. So yeah, I mean, I think storytelling being the focus of what this show is about that's worth championing and talking about. So have you gotten to see the latest episode of Andor called Announcement, and what did you think about it? Let's talk about it down below in the comment section. And let's champion this thing. Let's talk about it. Let's advocate for good storytelling in Star Wars again. I don't know. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.